Today we witnessed the seventh European Legal Policy Forum. The forum is a format which has been developed by GIZ Legal Reform Project and is frequently organized jointly with the Ministry of Justice and Public Administration of Serbia. Today's topic is the future of the Serbian judiciary. It is coming to a very important time because we are currently considering the further discussions and negotiations on the EU accession process, and the reform of the judiciary is a very important and crucial benchmark for that, but also for Serbia's development as a whole, as a total. It is very important and supported by GIZ Legal Reform Project that the strategy which has been drafted and which has been already accepted by the Serbian government will be also implemented. Therefore, the action plan which is on the table is a very important document and which gives a roadmap for a couple of years ahead to organize the judiciary in Serbia. We as GIZ German organization, GIZ Legal Reform Project, we are very happy to support this process in the future, and we are also confident that it will be a successful reform.
I am really very glad that GIZ legal support to Serbia has organized this seventh forum today. The Netherlands has cooperated a lot in the past with this forum, and this is really the most important question that Serbia will have to resolve. The functioning of the judiciary as an independent, well-qualified, effective judiciary, and I think that the national strategy, which has just been adopted by the government and that will be now debated in Parliament, is really a good road to that. The Netherlands is helping where it can the Serbian government on its way to do these reforms. It is important for the Serbian citizen, it is important for the trust in the judiciary, and it is important for democracy itself, and of course also for accession to the European Union, as the chapters dealing with judicial reform will be the first ones which will be opened after that. The negotiations are going to be opened and will have to stay open for a long time until everything has been done in that respect.
Vlada Republike Srbije je u utorak usvojila predlog strategije o reformi pravosuđa za period od 2013. do 2018. godine i on je već dostavljen Skupštini. Insistiramo da Skupština prioritetno stavi na dnevni red usvajanje strategije i mislim da će se to naći na dnevni red Skupštine pre 1. jula ove godine. Dakle, očekujemo onako kako smo i najavili da strategija bude usvojena u svom izvornom obliku, jer ona nije rezultat volje i rada pravosuđa i ljudi koji su zaposleni u Ministarstvu pravde, nego jednog širokog kruga, kako sam danas izneo u uvodnom izlaganju, i međunarodnih i domaćih eksperata i nevladinih predstavnika i predstavnika pravosuđa i predstavnika tužilaštva, tako da se radi o jednom konsenzusu vrlo širokog spektra na pronalaženju najboljih mera za reformu pravosuđa. Reforma sama po sebi znači da se konstatuje da je stanje u nekoj oblasti loše, da ga treba ispravljati i popravljati i lečiti donošenjem zakona, i mi smo to sve predvideli u strategiji. Što je najvažnije, za razliku od mnogih dokumenta, predvideli smo i ljude koji će nadzirati sprovođenje strategije i njihov sastav koji je apolitičan, uglavnom, personalno gledano, a isto tako ćemo periodično vršiti ocenu svega toga. Naravno, strategiju treba da sprovedu sudovi i tužilaštva. Bez toga ona ostaje mrtvo slovo na papiru. Na njima je sada da urade ono što je zacrtano. Sve što je zacrtano je realno i sve što je zacrtano je nužno potrebno radi građana Srbije. Ne radi ulaska u Evropsku uniju, naravno i radi ulaska u Evropsku uniju, ali pre svega radi građana Srbije, da bi oni imali pravosuđe koje je i pravedno i pravično i da bi mogli da ostvare prava koja su zagarantovana kako međunarodnim pravnim standardima, tako i Ustavom Republike Srbije i zakonima koje pravosuđe sprovodi.
Jedno pitanje, kada se može očekivati da akcioni plan bude dostavljen Vladi Srbije?
Akcioni plan je gotov i za jednu i za drugu strategiju, i za strategiju o reformi pravosuđa i za strategiju o borbi protiv korupcije. Taj akcioni plan će biti dostavljen Vladi na usvajanje i jedan i drugi tek onog trenutka kada Skupština usvoji strategije. Oni ne mogu biti usvajani pre toga i razmatrani na Vladi pre nego strategije postane politički dokument koji je verifikovalo najveće zakonodavno telo u zemlji. Ja vam mogu reći da smo mi već to privršili, ne znam da li ćemo tehnički stići danas, ali sigurno u toku sledeće nedelje ne samo taj, nego predlog dopuna i izmena Zakona o parničnom postupku i o vanparničnom postupku. Znači, ta tri sledeća idu. Prošlo je mimo očiju i ušiju javnosti da je Vlada u utorak usvojila i Zakon o prekršajima. Radi se o jednom izuzetno modernom zakonu koji smo usavršili i usaglasili sa najmodernijim rešenjima u Evropi i on je rađen 1 godinu i po dana. Dakle, ima dosta novina, nadamo se da će biti daleko efikasniji i da će takođe doprineti pre svega zaštiti građana, ali i borbi protiv bilo koje vrste delikata, pa i prekršaja kao najsitnijih delikata.
Opstane li ovakvo rešenje, dakle da se izopšti narodno predstavništvo iz postupka izbora kako sudija koje se prvi put biraju, tako i, rekao bih, još i značajnije iz postupka izbora članova Visokog saveta sudstva, jednoj grani vlasti daje se suprematija, zapravo stvara se jedna, kako sam na početku i naglasio, apsolutna samouprava i time se zapravo negira temeljno načelo vladavine prava, načelo podele vlasti. Nema više podele vlasti, jer podela vlasti bi tada postojala samo kao proklamacija, budući da više nema ravnoteže i međusobne kontrole. Dakle, nema tih mehanizama koji zapravo omogućuju da se ostvaruje cilj podele vlasti. Zaštita pojedinca od eventualne samovolje i zloupotrebe državne vlasti. Šta ostaje drugim dvema granama vlasti kod takvog stanja, od tih mehanizama ravnoteže i međusobne kontrole? Mislim, osim budžeta koji će i s pravom, uskoro biti izuzet, ništa ili makar ništa delotvorno.
The starting point for the discussion should be the circumstances in your country. What is needed to create an independent council or councils in Serbia? Because the European model is very different and because the situation in each country is very different. I think we can agree that the executive power historically has been very strong in Serbia and probably in the whole region, which means maybe that, and maybe the judiciary has been weaker, which means that maybe from now on and onwards, we'll have to give priority to the judges and prosecutors, the judiciary. And that will have implications for how we compose and how we elect the councils. First, we have to have mixed councils. And I think including the executive power, I agree with Monica, we cannot exclude the executive power. And I think it's important that we, in Serbia, do not go from one extreme, like Monica said, to another extreme. But let's have mixed councils. I've been a member of the council in Bosnia and Herzegovina for quite some years before, until actually the end of last year. And I have very good experience with the mixed councils, especially with lawyers in the councils. That has been a big debate in BIH whether there should be lawyers or not. But lawyers have been very useful for the council. Maybe actually those that are actually very often the most eager to protect the independence of the judiciary. So let's have mixed council as a starting point. The majority, I think, taking into account the history of a strong executive, the majority, but very slight majority, should be with judges and prosecutors. Maybe we could even discuss a majority composed of judges and prosecutors and these other members. When it comes to the executive, who should be the representative in the council? I think it should not be the minister. There I disagree with Monica. She has been a minister of justice, and maybe think that that's good. I think in the current setting, in this region, the minister of justice should not be a member of the council. They're just too powerful. They are by nature kind of outmaneuvering easily the judges and prosecutors, which are they are not used to this kind of power, this self-government. And they are too strong, I think, the ministers, for judges and prosecutors to handle. And the gravity of the inside, everything will gravitate towards the ministers if the minister is inside the council. But a high-level civil servants representing the minister, I think it's a very good alternative, and that is the alternative that we have in Bosnia-Herzegovina. I think, obviously, it has to be direct election of the council members, not via the parliament. Judges and prosecutors have to be elected by judges and prosecutors. That is not even up for discussion, not via the parliament. That is totally clear. It has to be like that. Also, I think that it has to be clear that the councils, with this mixed composition, including the executive, but in a minority role, should make the final appointments. And we should not go via the parliament to make the appointments, neither for court president, prosecutors, or judges. I would say that we are now at a historic moment. You have really an opportunity to change your constitution, and this is the most important part of the judicial reform that you are facing. You missed the opportunity in 2006. There are many good things in the 2006 strategy, but they were not implemented. Now don't miss this chance. Grab it, and the future will be bright for the judiciary.
Dakle, ja mislim da bi zaista bilo dobro da se odvoji funkcija Republičkog javnog tužioca i funkcija predsjednika Državnog veća tužilaca, čak i, da kažem, iz jačih razloga nego što je malo pre kolega Simić objašnjavao kod Visokog saveta sudstva. Tužilaštvo je kod nas još uvijek organizovano na jedan preterano hijerarhijski način, čak donekle, pa skoro maltene poluvojno. To je sistem koji je preživeo već više decenije kao takav. To je vrlo stroga hijerarhija, dakle, i vrlo je teško zamisliti da se tužioci, bilo zamjenici, bilo zamjenici tužioci, mogu potpuno, da kažemo, nezavisno ponašati u državnom veću, dok je tu, dakle, onaj koji im je glavni šef, koji šefuje cijelim tužilaštvom, i to je po meni, dakle, nešto vrlo očigledno. Drugo, ja uvažavam potpuno stavove vezane za, da kažemo, manji uticaj parlamenta na izbor, odnosno politike drugim rečima, ali treba naći meru, dakle, neku meru u tome, to je vrlo značajno, jer ako je politika maligna i ako politika hoće, dakle, da deluje, ona će naći prostora, dakle, i van parlamenta, dakle, što može biti jako nezgodno i čak možda potencijalno i opasnije. I konačno, ovo je, da kažem, nešto krajnje depersonalizovano. Dakle, ja imam vrlo dobru saradnju sa kolegama iz Državnog veća tužilaca koji su izborni članovi iz reda tužilaca, lično ih veoma uvažavam, dakle, i kao kompetentni i kao savesni ljude, ali ima jedan problem koji je očigledan, na koji je ukazivalo i udruženje tužilaca. To je da u predlaganju tih ljudi nisu učestvovali oni neizabrani zamenici, odnosno tužioci. Niti su mogli da budu birani. To u velikoj meri, dakle, da kažemo, kvari utisak o legitimnosti tih članova državnog veća i to samim tim, dakle, donekle njihov položaj je slabi. O tome treba voditi računa. Konačno, da kažem na samom kraju, dakle, bez, dakle, osjećaja da se neko zbog toga, dakle, osjeća povređenim, činjenica je, ako pogledate zapisnike o radu Državnog veća tužilaca, da je, ja mislim, dakle, maltene 100%, bez izuzetka, dakle, uvek isti broj glasova bio onih koji su nosioci tužilačke funkcije na čelu sa republičkim javnim tužilacima i predsednikom Državnog veća tužilaca i onih koji su izabrani članovi. Jedini, dakle, koji su ponekad mišljenje izdvajali su bili moja malenkost nekada veoma često i u novije vreme, dakle, advokat. Ta vrsta, dakle, da kažemo, jednoglasnosti govori, dakle, da postoji, dakle, vrlo jaka hijerarhija, dakle, i nešto što po meni, dakle, ne odgovara jednom slobodnom radu tog tela. To ne treba zaista voditi računa. Hvala.
And I just would like to flag a second important and interesting reason to consider sentencing guidelines. Sentencing guidelines, as most of you probably know, are provisions which suggest a narrower range of sentence to be imposed in particular cases. And I just wanted to flag them for one reason. Serbia on October 1st will have nationwide implementation of a new criminal procedure code. The Judicial Academy has been conducting nationwide trainings, and we've been participating in them. An important part of the new criminal procedure code is the expanded use of plea agreements. But a number of Serbian prosecutors and defense attorneys have told us that one of the things that complicates the use of plea agreements in Serbia, that makes it difficult to use plea agreements, is, and I know this as an experienced, slow down, closer, okay. One of the things I know as an experienced prosecutor, when I am negotiating a plea agreement with a defense attorney, it's essentially we're talking about discounting from an expected sentence that will follow trial. In Serbia, prosecutors and defense attorneys find it extremely difficult to predict what will be the sentence after trial. There is such a wide variation in sentences imposed for the same crime. I think there are some strong justice-related reasons why this is undesirable, but I just want to make the additional point that it also makes it very, very difficult for prosecutors and prosecutors and defense lawyers to agree on plea agreements because it requires some amount of foreseeability. I have not heard sentencing guidelines discussed before in Serbia, so I just sort of wanted to flag it as an initial topic for future conversation.
Pa jedinstvenog puta nema, nekakvog recepta nema, svi imamo nekakve svoje posebne uvjete u kojima radimo i onda u okviru tih uvjeta treba naći rješenja. Definitivno one reforme koje si zacrtate da ćete provesti, trebate biti predani na provođenju tih reformi i ono što je posebno važno, sve što se ovdje radi treba raditi zapravo u korist građana. Dakle, ne zato što to neko drugi od vas očekuje ili zato što to neko drugi diktira, nego isključivo sa željom da se unaprijedi sustav, da vam bude sustav puno bolji za građana. To su stvari, znači, da postupci ne traju dugo pred sudovima, da ljudi kada žele zaštititi neko svoje pravo ili interes, da to zaista u jednom brzom postupku dođu do pravednog rješenja, jer ako se te postupci vode dugo, pa bez obzira ako čovjek nakon 10 godina i dobije presudu, to je tada već nepravedno zato što je toliko dugo trajalo. Puno je izazova, puno je pitanja, na svako od njih zapravo morate iznaći rješenja koja su u okviru vašeg sustava najprihvatljivija, ali jasno dobro je pogledati komparativnu praksu, jer tako smo i mi gledali za svako pitanje kakve rješenja postoje, ali vrlo često zapravo smo ipak imali mi svoja posebna, nigdje to ništa se ne može, ono što bi se reklo, u potpunosti primijeniti zato što to neko drugi ima.
In my country, the judges at the first level are, when they are appointed, 50 years old on average. And that means they have a long career before they enter the judiciary. You have a different system. You have a system where you very often see that judges enter the first level and then go up to the various levels. But if we end up, or if Serbia end up with a system where the highest levels of the judiciary has a mono background, all of them have the same background. They went to the Judicial Academy, they passed the exam in the Judicial Academy, they went to the first instance, they went to the second instance, and then they went to the third instance. I don't think that's a judiciary for the future, because it will be, you need, at least in the higher instances, you need judges with different background, different perspectives.
Necessary is to withdraw the political considerations from the appointment procedure of judges, presidents of courts here in Serbia. Judicial independence is prerequisite of fair trial, so it is in the interest of the citizens, not really in the interest of judges. I think that also the previous European Commission reports clearly state that it is necessary to include objective criteria and merits to be assessed in the process of appointment and promotion and career of judges and chief judges. The second point I wish to make is that obviously the main future challenge for Serbian judiciary is how to reduce huge judicial backlogs, in particular in civil cases. It seems that criminal justice here, at least in terms of the time needed to dispose of an average case, is rather good, or at least much better than in civil cases. We were told today that about 70% of civil cases actually relates to the backlogs and caseload of the courts. So I think that now it's a perfect time to introduce a policy of many options for Serbian citizens, so that the court and the litigation would be just one, maybe the last one indeed. And that would mean that they should have an option to attempt some other previous dispute resolution processes which are friendly, which are customer used, and which are cost effective, which provides finality on one side, but on the other side which take into the consideration of the interests of the parties. And I think that mediation, arbitration and other alternative dispute resolution processes could perfectly serve to that goal. And Serbia could actually introduce so-called multi-door courthouse model, many ways to justice. Even if you go to the court should offer you, for example, a mediation. This is the lesson learned in Slovenia. It works perfectly.
I'm glad we discussed today this reform this strategy for reforming the judicial system. In my view, from what I read and heard today, amendments should be brought, and it's good we discussed. First of all, I haven't seen anything about fighting corruption in the judiciary. And when I say judiciary, I refer to both judges and prosecutors. This is the most important. It's not, if you train corrupt judges or corrupt prosecutors, or you come with whatever rules, it's in vain, it's a loss of money and of time. So the priority is to have a clean judiciary. Again, I haven't read anything about this. Part of it is random distribution of cases. So cases go by an automatic system to a specific judge or a prosecutor, and not with the interference of the president of the court or the chief prosecutor, and the special unit to go and look in cases of proactive alleged corruption by the judiciary members. I say this because the judiciary has to keep the balance of all powers in the country, and if it's corrupt, if it lacks integrity, then nothing will work in the country. And of course, it's not all of it corrupt, but if there are enough cases and nothing is done against them, then it's very bad, and the general perception is it's all corrupt. So that's one thing which work has to be done. Then secondly, the test of the judiciary is the cases with the politicians, with corrupt politicians, or fraud or tax, whatever, related with politicians. Because in the cases of politicians, the telephone rings. In other cases, the telephone doesn't ring and no one cares. So when you deliver justice, and the test for the judges and prosecutors in a transition period is the cases with politicians. So they have to dare to be brave and to investigate and convict politicians, including those in power. if you only look for the opposition, that's not an independent judiciary.